Adorable treasured fox, divine doctor mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 11, Handsome Man of a Painting Part 1. The decision to steal the Dan pill recipe was made by the three of them, and even the refinement process was done together. Yet look at him now, these two shameless traitors are pushing the responsibility onto his head. My precious disciple, let me explain. Xuanhuan, old 3, makes an awkward smile as he flung his hands around in the air, unsure where to place them. I only did this out of curiosity. I was going to borrow it for a bit, then return the recipe after giving it a trial run. Wait for you to create the Dan pill. Wouldn't that mean the whole island would be blown up before you succeed? Bai Yan's face took on an ugly expression, and there's the matter of my garden you ruined. How are we going to calculate this debt? Taking advantage of Xuanhuan's old 3 divided attention, Zhengqi old 1 and Renyi old 2 exchanged a signaling glance and jumped forward to attack their brother. One tightly held the shoulder while the other used his fastest speed to snatch the special storage bag from the waist. Disciple, one must take responsibility when they do something wrong. This storage bag here contains old 3's life possession. I will now use it to compensate your loss. Xuanhuan's old face immediately went dark, angrily roaring out at his brothers, Zhengqi, Renyi, you traitors. In response, Zhengqi old 1 pats his brother on the shoulder and said, Old 3, it doesn't matter anyways when we only have this one disciple. Whether it be now or in the future, all of our possessions will eventually be hers. Am I right or am I right? There's no wrong in that saying. But, restraining his bleeding heart, Xuanhuan mercilessly glares at his brother, then how come you didn't bring out your storage bag instead? Ho ho, the one who made the mistake is you, so of course the one to compensate is you. Renyi old 2 shamelessly states this like it's only right. Ignoring the bickering going on between the three, Bai Yan activates her spirit force to probe the contents. To her astonishment, everything inside were precious herbs of extreme quality. Not even money could buy these outside. Easing her face down, she smiles. Out of consideration for your sincerity and compensation, you can have that recipe. By the way, I will also hand the paper with the refinement method to you three. Following Bai Yan's sentence, Xuanhuan's distressed face instantly brightened up to the point that he's beaming with light in his old eyes. Disciple, you are not cheating Shifu now, are you? You are really willing to teach us. However, I'm going away for a while, so my lessons will have to wait until I get back. Frost explodes out of her eyes. 6 years already. It's been 6 years since she left the Bai house, allowing those people 5 years of peace. This time, she intends to pay them all back, the ones who did her harm. Sinking in their eyes, these old bones all knew about their precious disciples past after spending so much time with her. It was Xuanhuan who spoke up first after pondering the matter. I heard that 5 years ago the royal consort of the second prince gave birth to a son, and that the animals were kneeling at the child. According to the rumors anyway. Now that the second prince has taken the crown prince title, that woman is the crown princess now. My dear disciple, it's not that your Shifu I don't trust your ability, but those from the Bai house is simply too shameless. I fear they will nauseate you with their foul existence. Renyi old 2 thought for a moment, continuing, let's do it this way. We will send some people back with you. If someone dares to bully you, just have our people directly kill them. With us backing you, you can walk sideways if you want to, no one can say otherwise. Adorable treasured fox, divine doctor mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 12, Handsome Man of a Painting Part 2. No need. My return this time is not only for revenge, it's also to clear up some questions I have. A gleam flashes by her eye. Besides, I don't just want to Bai house to disappear, I want their prestige to completely crumble as they fall. Whatever benefits they took of the land house will be whatever benefits they will spill back out. The three elders shared a look at the statement. Through the years of living with their disciple, how can they not know Bai Yan's personality? Once decided, there's no changing that head of hers. Grandchefus, don't worry, Bai Xiakan pats his chest in assurance, I will protect mother and not let those villains harm us. Going warm in the heart, Bai Yan believes she couldn't ask for more from a son. Then next second the baby boy just had to ruin the mood by adding an inconsistent phrase to his sentence, if I can't do it then I'll roast little rice. Poor little Rice. He was enjoying such a fine nap in the boy's arm when he heard this, thus causing the baby tiger to nearly stumble to the ground in a panic. What does the vow have to do with him? Then very well. Xuanhuan exhales a sigh. Do pay attention to your safety though when on the road. If there is anything you need, anything at all, don't hesitate to come back to us. Oh yes, the young lord is back. Do you wish to visit him before departing? Godfather is back. Xuanhuan's big moving eyes looked pitifully cute as he tugged at his mother's sleeve. Mother, can we go say farewell to Godfather too before leaving? In response, Xuanhuan holds onto the boy's hand and slightly nods at the elders. If he's back then it won't be right if we don't see him before departing. My shifers, take care of yourselves. Dropping these words, she slowly turned away with her son and left a picturesque scene of stunning red for the three elders. Big brother, old 3. Renyi old 2 makes a wry smile. We have really brought shame to our name as the chief alchemists of the Holy Land. Compared to our precious disciple, we are too inferior. All those recipes she has, I never even seen those before. Xuanhuan very proudly raised his head. Ho ho, don't forget it's I who brought the girl back here years ago. Now that we've kept her hidden for so long, it's time we let her go out and wow the world. I can already see the shocking faces of those bastards from the medicine sect. As the #1 sect specializing in medicine creation, the medicine sect usually held the other alchemists out there in contempt and would often dismiss anyone who doesn't align with their view. As such, the three elders here intentionally hid their disciple away from prying eyes, just so they can wow the other side for once. At the moment, Xuanhuan had already arrived at her destination in the back of the mountain, totally unaware of her shiftless intent. Mountains and lakes in the background, the man she's seeking now stood with his back against her. There's no negativity to be found here, only the striking resemblance of an unrealistic beauty found in that of a painting. Godfather, Baichia waves his short chubby hands at the man to get his attention. Sure enough, the man slowly turns around to reveal his divine contour. Though his face can overshadow even the brightest star in the heavens, those eyes remain emotionless that it hurts just seeing them. I heard from my shifers that you are back, so I intentionally came to say goodbye to you. I and little Xuanhuan will be leaving for a while. Adorable treasured fox, divine Dr. Mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 13. I'm back Part 1. If you need help then I can help you. Warmth gradually filled Chu Fengyi's emotionless gaze. With a smile more beautiful than the scenic background, Xuanhuan casually pinches a falling petal with her fingers before asking, Fengyi, do you think the peach blossoms here are beautiful? No reply came. To the man, regardless of how beautiful these falling peach blossoms are, they paled in comparison to the woman standing before him. Unfortunately, no matter how beautiful these blossoms are, they will eventually wither after falling off the tree. I don't want to become like that, become somebody that can't survive on their own. As if coming out of a trance, Chu Fengyi carried a complex feeling in his eye. I understand your meaning, but, if you ever want to find someone to rely on, I am more than willing to become yours and Xuanhuan's reliance. Before that, I will act as a big brother watching over you. Getting understanding from her friend, Xuanhuan forms a bright smile and holds onto her son's hand again. Xuanhuan, let us go now. Okay, the child makes a genuine smile at Chu Fengyi. Farewell Godfather, I will miss you. Standing under the peach blossom tree, the unrealistic man watches the departing back of the pair he holds so dear. For an instant, this paradise made up of mountains and lakes suddenly became ever so lonely without their presence. Mother, do you not like Godfather? Xuanhuan questions Xuanhuan after returning to their cabin. It's not that I don't like your godfather, but rather it's not that type of like. I only think of him as family. If there's no possibility then I don't want to give him false hope. She had always been the decisive kind. Whether it be love or the way she handles things in life, Xuanhuan will never drag them out and make a mess of it. Xuanhuan nods his small head like he can almost understand the meaning. Although I like Godfather a lot, but mother is mother, always right. Amused by her son's silly act, Xuanhuan pinched the boy on his soft little cheek. Come, let us go home. Mother, do you think uncle will like me? Oh, when did you ever care about other people's opinion? Because mother likes him, so I also want him to like me. Since you are already saying he's a person mother likes, then of course he will certainly like you. Holding Bai Xiakan's small little hand, Bai Yan led her son away, leaving only their gradually fading voice in the air. Ellipsis. 6 years' worth of time can't be considered long nor can it be considered short, yet there have been some drastic changes that took place in the Lu Huo kingdom. First was the birth of the royal grandson by royal consort Bai Ruo. Due to the massive movement by the animals in the world, including demon beasts, rumor has it that the ruckus was all in worship of the child. Although demon beasts carried the word demon in its name, but in actual fact, these creatures are a symbol of strength. As such, the second prince was immediately crowned the heir to the throne, thus raising Bai Ruo's status to that of the crown princess. In addition to that, the most cited matter to involve the women of the world was the appearance of a new sovereign with a different surname in the kingdom 5 years ago. The man went by the name of Dai Kang. Though his background remains a mystery to everyone, His Majesty remains to be convinced of the man's ability and allowed him to use the surname Dai in his title. This gave proof of how highly favored this new sovereign was. Note: Dai in Chinese actually means emperor or king. Since I can't exactly use king or emperor as a last name, Dai will have to do. Besides, considering how sinfully handsome and powerful he was, no women can resist his charm. That alone warranted a frenzy among the female populace. Adorable treasured fox, divine doctor mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 14. I'm Back Part 2. Prince's Manor. Sitting in front of his desk, the lord of the house appears to be in a foul mood despite his lazy demeanor. The person I ordered you people to find is still nowhere to be seen. The guard on the receiving end trembles at the question, Your Highness, his back soaked with sweat that it made the environment awfully chilly. Your Highness, the woman you mentioned has no description nor name. We are unable to follow. Gradually straightening his back, the man behind the desk becomes stern in his voice. I will give you another half a month. If you can't locate her by then, all of you can bring your heads back instead. Your subordinate shall comply. Slowly getting up from the ground, the guard swiftly left the premise with his legs shaking heavily with each step. It's always been like this. Whenever he came to report to His Highness the Sovereign Prince, it would require a great deal of courage to simply just speak, let alone raising his head to look up. Note: I'm gonna use Sovereign Prince as his title since he's technically a king with a different surname. Easier to differentiate. Once the room empties again, the dangerous man narrows his eyes and recalled the disgraceful scene from 6 years ago. Suddenly, the cup in his hand snaps and shatters into pieces at the grip. Despite the hot burning tea pouring down his skin, no reaction ever came, like the pain didn't register at all in his mind. You got the guts to rape me. Then you got the guts to flee. Just wait, even if you run to the ends of the world I will personally drag you back out. 6 years ago when he had just left the demon realm and came to these lands, a time where his strength became limited and his body unconscious, it was that bloody woman who brought him back. Unfortunately, because of the forceful breakthrough of the seal, his eyesight became a blur and could only see the approximate shape of the woman's appearance. He intended to get even with the perpetrator after he recovered, but who would have guessed? After the despicable act of eating him, the woman immediately pulled up her pants and fled, leaving no chance for him to catch her. Your Highness. Just then, a guard hurries inside to report, the sixth princess is here again. She wishes to see Your Highness. Sweeping his bone-chilling gaze across the guard, Dai Kang causes the poor man to shrink his head back in fright. Such small matters and you still need to come report to me. Send her away. But the sixth princess said if Your Highness doesn't meet her then she won't leave the manor. Originally Dai Kang wanted to leave, but when he heard this sentence, he halted in his step, then have her thrown out. His voice cold and unquestionable. The guard trembled all over because he knew only this man would dare treat the royal family so poorly. Yet, His Majesty the King continues to turn a blind eye to the act. No, the correct saying should be the king doesn't dare to intervene. Ignoring the guard and his inner thoughts, Dai Kang pats his sleeve and stepped out the doorway and into the open sun. His purple robe dazzling to the eye under the morning light. Ellipsis. On the end of a street in the capital, Bai Xiakan was currently eyeing his surroundings with curiosity as Bai Yan led him around the ever-so-lively city. Mother, are we going to see Uncle now? Over the years, the only one his mother would ever talk about was his uncle Bai Seo. Therefore, the little guy had long been anticipating this meeting. For now, no. Bai Yan stopped in her footstep. I've changed my mind and won't be taking you back to the Bai house. Instead, I'm going to buy a house here first and get someone to take care of you. Turning red in the eyes, the boy tightens his grip on his mother's hand and pleaded, Please don't be angry, mother. I promise you I won't be naughty anymore. So please, mother, don't leave me behind. I will stop asking you to find me a father anymore. Is that not good? Adorable treasured fox, divine Dr. Mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 15. I'm the big miss of the Bai house part 1. Sweetie, do you believe those people from the Bai house are qualified to see you? In this bustling street, Bai Yan stood there unmoving, her gaze pouring down at her son's tender little face. Aside from uncle, there are no others eligible to meet me. Pricking his brow, Bai Xiaocan makes a face unbefitting of his young age. Then isn't that fine then? Mother will find a chance to bring your uncle to you. Before then, don't let those from the Bai house find you. No matter how uncharacteristically mature Bai Xiaocan was, everyone over the years have kept the boy under careful protection with enormous amount of love. Never have he experienced any injustice. Therefore, Bai Yan didn't want her son to defile his young little ears with those filthy words from those people. Then we will pinky swear on it, mother must bring uncle to find me and not trick me just because I'm young. Sticking out his pinky in anticipation, he immediately causes Bai Yan to go dark in the face. Young age, trick him just because he's a 5-year-old. There's no delusion in this mother's mind that her son can never be tricked, only her son doing the tricking. Okay, we will pinky swear. No matter what her heart thought, Bai Yan can only do as the boy wished to get things her way. Now you should believe me, right? Showing an innocent smile, Mother, where is the house you prepared for me? I'm saying this now, I won't live there unless the environment is as good as our island back in the Holy Land. Making an ambiguous mumble to get by, Bai Yan explains, while we are outside, it's best you not expect too much. If you demand too highly, then I will be forced to send you back immediately. Even the palace of the kingdom cannot compare to the Holy Land, let alone some random mansion. And now he still wants an environment exactly the same as their cabin on the island. Is her son still asleep, or daydreaming? Mommy, I know I'm wrong then, please don't send me back. If a big beauty like you is not on the island, then I will go crazy facing only those old faces. But mother, you must remember to come back and cook for me, otherwise I will starve to death. Cuddling in the boy's arm, little Rice raises his head and makes a low roar as if pandering to Bai Xiaocan's pleading claim. Due to being instructed by Bai Yan that he can't speak human tongue while in front of the public, the white tiger can only use this primitive method to express his meaning. I have already found you a cook. She pats the boy's head, and, you are not to be picky in your food. Making an indignant face, Bai Xiaocan lowers his head and mumbled, how can those food from the cooks compare to mother's food? As unwilling as he was, the young boy knew better than to raise an objection, otherwise he will really be sent back alone. Inside the Lu Huo kingdom, the residents of the Bai house would of course be located in the most prosperous east street of the city, since they are after all one of the 4 big noble houses. As it so happens to be, the house Bai Yan found for her son wasn't all that far from the Bai residence. But in comparison, it's quieter and the atmosphere had more of a noble air to the outside. Mother, although this house is inferior to the island inside the Holy Land, it's still way better than the Bai house's place. Due to passing by the Bai residence on their way here, Bai Yan had taken the opportunity to point out the mansion belonging to that family, hence the reason why the boy was so happy now that he knew his home was much better. Humph. That's what they get for bullying mother. Sweetie, this is here not the Holy Land, so you mustn't take advantage of my absence and run off to make trouble. Do you understand my meaning? Bai Yan sternly asks this, making sure to emphasize her point by patting the boy on the shoulder. Bai Xiaocan blinked at the request, but what if someone bullies me? Adorable treasured fox, divine Dr. Mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 16. I'm the big miss of the Bai house part 2. Then you can beat 'em until they're dead. Bai Yan pricks her brow, apparently forgetting her own lesson just moments ago. If you kill them in the end, then you got mommy here to back you up, and you still have your grandchefess back at the Holy Land to rely on. Who dares to bully her, Bai Yan's son? A flicker of light filled the boy's eye, for he's relieved to hear those words. In his interpretation, he's only restricted to actively meet the members of the Bai house. Never did she say he can't take the initiative to make trouble for them. If I don't give those evildoers a taste of my POWAS, then I'm not Bai Xiakan. Mommy, I will be in the house waiting for you to come back. You mustn't forget me just because you found Uncle. Bai Xiakan pulls at her sleeve, his face pitifully sad. Going dark in the face, Bai Yan thought, is my memory so bad that I would forget my own child? Mommy, your memory is universally recognized as bad. With only a glance, he could already guess what's on her mother's mind. You could even forget my father, so it's not unthinkable that you will suddenly one day forget me too. Giving her son a hard knock on the head, Bai Yan ignores the last comment. Don't spend so much of your time fiddling about these minor details. Little Rice, you watch him. This wasn't the first time she had left her son alone before. Back when they were living in the Holy Land, Bai Yan had periodically departed by herself to cultivate her own powers and influences out in the world. However, this time's different from the past. They are out here. There's a clear distinction between the two, so of course Bai Yan would be worried. In her eyes, she would rather trust a white tigerling than to trust her own son to behave. Making a wooing sound to confirm the order, Little Rice then pats his furry chest to make a confident gesture. With everything set, Bai Yan departed by herself, leaving the two youngsters alone in the manor. Little Rice. A shred of yearning filled Bai Xiakan's gaze as he watched the disappearing back of his mother. Uncle will like me when I'm this handsome, right? I say, what if I bring Uncle some gift? Would that be better? If anything, I can share half of the Dan pill snacks Mother made us. He hasn't a clue regarding the precious value of the snacks in his possession, but Bai Xiakan do know his grandchefs would often fight among themselves just to get a single one when possible. Rolling his tiger eyes, Little Rice jumped out of the boy's arm and found a warm place for himself to bath in the sun. Ellipsis. After so many years, the Bai manner in which she fled from remains the same. Standing there, the memories from back then floods back to her like a wave. 6 years, and I'm finally back here again, Bai Yan murmurs. Whatever they owe me, I will make 'em pay me back in full and more. Who are you? The guard standing at the door showed astonishment at first, then replaced it with disdain. This here is the Bai house. Not just anyone can go in, especially a dirty woman like you. What's that saying again? Ah yes, a dog looking down on others. That sort of saying was the perfect match for this snobbish guard here. No wait, calling this man a dog was an insult to such an animal known to be loyal. I am the first miss of the Bai house. Her tone slightly cold. You say, am I qualified to go in? First miss of the Bai house. Then that means this woman in red is the same girl who got pregnant and then eloped with another man. You think I will believe you? Just believe you say you are the first miss of the Bai house. The guard quickly recomposed himself and started to laugh mockingly. If you can't come up with proof, then scram. Adorable treasured fox, divine Dr. Mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 17. The So-Called Father Part 1. Being stopped at the door by the guard, Bai Yan did not get angry. Instead, she took 2 steps forward and raised her pressure. Zhang Yao, the son-in-law of the Bai house's housekeeper. Through your father-in-law's connection, you fished an errand here and will only obey Yu Rong's mother. If I'm not mistaken, the reasoning for you to stop me here is also an order from that old woman. Following every word from her mouth, the guard would turn uglier by the second because what the young woman here said were all true. It's no secret he's the son-in-law of the housekeeper, but obeying the old madam wasn't. Not even the lord of the house knew about that. For fear of other women coming to seduce Bai Zhengxiang once the Bai house grows, they had you stationed here to stop any possible threat. Am I correct? Bai Yan points everything out, her face a smile the entire time. Prior to coming here today, she had done all that's needed to dig up the background of every member of the Bai house, including the servants here too. If not for a strong backing, this guard wouldn't be so daring and pompous in his attitude. A disbelieving voice abruptly breaks the quiet atmosphere here. Just as Bai Yan followed the sound and turned around, a pair of shocked eyes were already pinned to herself from behind. You are, big sister. Watching the delicately sweet maiden in front of her, Bai Yan uttered a lamenting sigh in response. Would this be the so-called the inevitable clash between enemies? I have only just returned and already I'm running into Yu Rong's youngest daughter. Heck, I'm not even past the doorway yet. Big sister, is that really you? The girl makes a delighted face. Do you know that after you disappeared years ago, my maternal grandmother became worried sick for you while my mother would constantly dream of your safe return day and night. It's so great now that you've returned. Bai Ji, so this is your family's infamous first miss of the Bai house. The one that got pregnant before marriage and then eloped with the man. Gee, to think a woman who lost her chastity would dare come back still. The group of young girls following behind Bai Ji sent a sweeping glance at Bai Yan, their eyes filled with obvious disdain. You mustn't say that about my big sister. Bai Ji started to flush red from her supposed anger. Even if this matter is my big sister in the wrong, she's still my blood relative. My mother have always loved her the most. Even if me and my elder sister Bai Ruo are wronged, we cannot wrong my big sister here. If you bully her then you are going against our Bai house. Bai Yan slightly narrowed her eyes at the statement. From her impression, this Bai Ji have been the kind or naive sort of person. Back in the beginning, there had never been a lack of cases where these two sisters would unite to bully herself. As such, she was just wondering why this Bai Ji would start defending herself. Now it turns out dogs never change. Dog shit was still dog shit. Your mother indeed treated me very well. She sweeps her gaze at Bai Ji. She was afraid I would be fat so she didn't feed me and made me starve. She was afraid I would squander away my mother's dowry so she so kindly took 'em all into her custody. Oh yes, she also thought I might be too extravagant in public so she never had me wear any jewelries after my mother passed away. After her series of spilling the beans in front of the girls' groupie, Bai Yan successful witnessed the snobby brat going from angelic to hideous on the face. So yes, I really have to thank your mother for all these years of love she gave me. Hers lips curved into a smile. With everything said, Bai Yan tilts her head high and proudly walked into the residence after 6 years away from this place. While in the back, the crowd watching her back broke out into an uproar. Though Bai Yan from back then had the title of being the #1 beauty of the kingdom, but her development had always been very thin with hardly any flesh on the chest. Furthermore, most didn't pay attention before due to her exquisite natural face, but never had Bai Yan worn a jewelry in public, or makeup for that matter. Adorable treasured fox, divine doctor mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 18, The So-Called Father Part 2. They had thought that Bai Yan only kept herself so destitute because of her mother's death, but now it seems there's more to what's shown on the surface. Don't you listen to her nonsense. Bai Ji couldn't care about her disguise anymore and stabbed her fists onto her hip while she shouted in protest. What a waste of my kindness in protecting her. How can she frame my mother like that? No wonder she can do something so immoral back then. She glared viciously in the direction of the departing figure. So what if you came back? My sister is now the crown princess, and the crown prince is also very doting towards her. There's no place left for you here now. Ellipsis. Bai Yan did not deliberately hide her return. Instead, she made it as high profile as she can so everyone knows she's back. By this point Bai Zhengxiang also became alarmed by the matter and hurried back as a result. Upon his return at home, he immediately convened a clan meeting and sent for Bai Yan. But no matter how he waited, the familiar figure never appeared. That was until his patience ran dry anyways. Under the brilliant light of the sun from the outside, the beautiful red dress only made the owner even more exquisite and enchanting. Seeing this, Yu Rong's stepmother that was sitting next to her man couldn't help but grip her hands from jealousy. Yu Rong herself had given birth to 2 daughters, but not a single one of them could compare to this bitch's appearance. Fortunately, the heavens are fair and just. By giving this cheap wench a magnificent outer skin, it also deprived the girl of any talent in cultivation, making her trash in the public's eye. If it were not so, there's no way her eldest daughter Bai Ruo would be able to marry into royalty. Bai Yan, you were back. No matter how unwilling she was, Yu Rong continues to don that false smile of hers. It's good that you are back. Do you know how worried your father has been since your disappearance? Hurry and admit you're wrong so he will forgive you. My dear, you don't have to speak for this unfilial daughter. Snapping. Bai Zhengxiang immediately roared out, Bai Yan, immediately kneel down in front of me. Kneel. Bai Yan coldly smirked at the demand. Even back when she became her Shifa's disciple, those three elders never even dared to ask her to kneel. So, based on what qualification can this man ask her to kneel? I'm not wrong, so I don't need to admit anything. She only came here to see her brother Bai Xiao, not to win the hearts of these people. In her heart, there's only hatred left and nothing else for this bunch. Impudent. Bai Zhengxiang thundered and slammed the table. Standing up, he made a pained expression. Do you know how much shame you brought to our family when you left? If not for your mother here speaking up for you, I would have already expelled you from the clan book. My husband. Don't say any more. Yurong rushed over and pulled at the man's sleeve, her face looking pitiful. I am only her stepmother after all. No matter what I do, it will never be good enough. On the contrary, I will only be blamed for meddling in her affairs. Apparently, Bai Zhengxiang was still in the midst of his rage and couldn't see through the simple act. Throwing the stopping hand away, he roared again, she don't even know how to admit her wrong. What use is there for you to fend for her? Bai Yan, do you know your grandmother fainted from grievance and that your mother here also wept daily for you? Yet you, how can you be such an animal? From today forward the clan book of the Bai family will no longer have room for a cold-hearted wolf like you. Against the series of accusation, Bai Yan only snickered a humble laugh. May I know which one from the Lan house are you referring to? As for the one present here today, how come I haven't been informed of her becoming my grandmother? As for my mother, she's already in the afterlife. Adorable treasured fox, divine Dr. Mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 19. The so-called father Part 3. Old madam, you did not expect this girl to be even more stubbornly hateful after 6 years of absence. Immediately, she broke out into a cry. What have I done to deserve this, to have worried for this cold-hearted wolf for so many years? Zhengxiang, since your own daughter won't allow me to stay here, then should I leave? Bai Zhengxian had always been very filial towards this aunt of his, to the point that it's no different from a biological mother. Therefore, hearing the old lady's crying voice, his temper immediately flared open. Kneel before your grandmother. He stomped at his daughter's knee in an attempt to make her bend, only to miss completely when Bai Yan sidestepped to one side. Coming up empty, the rage only grew doubled. Bai Yan, you don't have to apologize to me today, but no matter what, you must give your mother and grandmother here an apology. I want to see you kneeling on the floor until they forgive you. Bai Zhengxiang, if I say 6 years ago it's they who framed me and nearly sold me to the old chief of the Qian house as a concubine, would you still force me to apologize? That's deliberate. She wanted to see how ruthlessly cold this man can be and to what extent. But the reply Bai Yan got next only realized the old cruel saying of a stepdad will come once there's a stepmom. Bai Yan, oh Bai Yan, I am too disappointed in you. How can there be such a vicious person like you in this world? Yurong is so kind, yet you have the audacity to say she framed you. They loved you like their own daughter and granddaughter, but in the end you repay them with this ungrateful attitude. Bai Zhengxiang's eyes were full of disappointment. To tell the truth, when he heard Bai Yan had returned today, his heart did have a glimmer of hope. If only she kneeled and admitted her mistake, he would have forgiven her. Unexpectedly, this girl not only refused to repent, she also wants to frame others as an excuse. Someone come. Go get me the disciplinary rod. His face dark as he sternly spoke. Bai Yan, I'm hitting you for your own good, otherwise you will never know how to repent. Bai Yan's gaze turned icy cold. I like to see who will dare touch me. Her imposing aura causes even the guards to stiffen up at the doorway, let alone Bai Zhengxiang that's closest to the epicenter of the pressure. The man almost couldn't breathe there for a moment. What are you people lagging there for? Go and get me the disciplinary rod. I'm going to teach this ungrateful girl a lesson today. Only after much struggle did he manage to shout this out. Just when the guard wanted to carry out the order by retreating, a snowy white-dressed boy blocks his path. Bai Xiao, why did come? The man was still angry, but his expression clearly became better upon the boy's entry into the hall. The youngster didn't reply, only walking silently inside to Bai Yan's side like his entire being was shrouded inside a layer of frost. You stated before that you would expel her from the Bai house. That means you can't use the family disciplines against her. Ever since her brother appeared again in her life, Bai Yan's gaze have never wavered by the boy's location. In her view, the young naive boy from back then had changed. He's colder, and more distant. Adorable treasured fox, divine doctor mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 20, Why Didn't You Take Me Away? Part 1. His face a slight frown, in the end of it she's still my daughter. I only said those out of anger. As long as she's willing to come back to the right path, then I will forgive her for the past mistakes. It's not like Bai Zhengxiang held no feelings for their bond, but to him, the girl's behavior had gone too far. Hence the reason for his words back there. I will only recognize the part where you said she's no longer part of the Bai family. Still cold in his gaze, Bai Xiao slowly turns away. Leave with me. Watching the lonely yet proud back of the youth, Bai Yan didn't refuse and followed suit in the same direction. Having his own son disregarding his words, Bai Zhengxiang went livid in his face. How can Lan Yue produce a pair of stubborn kids like this when she's so gentle and virtuous? My husband, it's all my fault. You wrong hypocritically wipes the corner of her eye. I'm not only incompetent in giving you a son, but also failed to discipline Bai Xiao in your place. It's all my fault he's disobeying his elders. The grievance in Yu Rong's voice slightly elevated the anger in his face. This matter is not to be blamed on you. If anything, the one to blame is that old man from the Lan house. Bai Xiao's temperament is exactly like his grandfather's. Over the years, Bai Zhengxiang not only showed no gratitude for the support he received from the Lan house, he instead blamed his father-in-law for everything bad because it was that old man who refused their marriage in the beginning. So what if he doesn't agree? His daughter is already that in love with me, no way Lan Yue could ever leave back then. As for Bai Xiao, we do need to educate him some more. I give you permission to scold or beat him if you must. If the Lan house comes knocking, then I will block him off. As his only son, Bai Zhengxiang never intervened with the boy's matter because he's his only heir. But after today's incident, he's come to the conclusion that being too indulgent of his son cannot be good. At this rate, it might even ruin the boy. And who better was there to teach his son? Of course his wife Yu Rong, when she's given him two fine daughters thus far. Husband, you can rest assured that I will teach him as my own son. Lowering her face, Yu Rong hides away the sinister glow from her eyes. Lan Yue, back then you took away my position and ruined me, but now look who's still standing. You are dead and even your children are in my hands now. I've won, you hear me? Ellipsis. Towards the request made by her father to discipline Bai Xiao, Bai Yan doesn't it yet, but she will. Until then, she's quietly walking behind the youthful boy and watching the stoic back right now. Brother. After a long time she finally stopped in her steps, her voice full of reminiscence. Going stiff at the hailing voice, the youth only stood there under the afternoon sun without turning back to face the woman behind him. How have you been all these years? How have you been all these years? Clenching his two hands into a tight grip, Bai Xiao slowly turns around, his handsome face already trickling with tears.